Magu Ziansho, divine marijuana brings immortality. So, it's like 3:45 in the morning. I guess I should call these my bedroom talks, because it seems like this is the most quietest time, and it seems like this is when I feel like making videos. But my kung fu videos are coming. It's been difficult getting it together. I want to do it correctly. So, I'm doing these videos until I start doing the actual teaching videos. And this video is about what the hell is going on in the world. And when I say in the world, I mean in at least my world. So, I've said over and over again on Facebook and videos on YouTube that I have tried to tell people, let's get together and get our own thing for what's happening now. Now, I was a little ahead of my time. That's a problem with being ahead of your time. If I was young now and I had all the ideas that I have now, it would probably be a different situation. But I'm older and I'm tired. I've tried to get people, I've had people live with me. When I got out the Marine Corps, I tried to get my family together. They're like, why are you always asking for help? Especially my daughter's mother. Why are you always asking for help? I'm like, did I ask anybody to help me through Marine Corps boot camp? Did I ask anybody to help me through photography school? Photography school was no joke. You might just think it's, oh, I'm just going to take a picture, dude. No, we had to learn the science of light and lenses and how cameras are put together. It was 6 months of school. Oh, and then when they wanted $500 more, nobody was there to help pay that $500. So I had to quit. Why are you always quitting? Did you give me $500? Anyway, that's all personal stuff. This is kind of personal too, because it's like, okay, I've had people live with me in this apartment, in the first apartment I had out here in California, and these people tore my house up. The first one, they literally set on fire and burnt it up. All my TV, everything, bed. I'm like, wow, I let these people, I never seen no shit like this before. Man, I'm still naive, I guess, in that sense. I've never had where I can let people live with. I never had it like that. And I did it. And they burnt my house up. This one they tore up. They broke the window out. They tore off the handles in the kitchen. I'm like, what heaven is, what did I do to you? Really, come on now. Anyway, so now there was nobody there to help me. So now it's like a lot of shit is happening without people being around. And I'm going to play like a few minutes or maybe the whole thing of Terrence Howard. Y'all know he's been coming out with his genius off-the-wall stuff. And I'm like, some of the stuff he's saying on here, I'm like, wow, since 2024, well, I'll just start with the van. The van, two tires. I go out there, two tires were slashed. The tire man told me they didn't poke a hole in it cause I'm like, well, repair. He's like, I can't repair this because somebody slashed the tires. Okay, so I get two new tires, and a week later, one tire is flat. I'm like, okay, so I drive over there. The tire got towed up while I was driving over to the tire people, and the dude is like, we don't have that tire no more. I'm like, you a tire place? You can't order it? Okay. So I said, forget it. I park it up at Leimert Park. Oh, I forgot. I said 2024. My computer got burned out, and the van broke down earlier, and I had to have it towed back over here. Da 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 da. 2024 has been hell. Okay, so the van is parked, and the police put a ticket on it. And I'm like, okay, well, you see the tire is toe up. The tire is toe up like this. Like, I'm like, okay, I can't move it. This is what I'm getting to. All the people that I've helped that didn't help me, I didn't have the money to get one tire. So the van sat there, and then when I did get the money to get the tire, I go up there, I'm like, I'm going to get my van. It was gone. The van, I'm like standing on the corner like, for real, my van is gone. It's not just the van. I got stuff in there. It's still in impound. Why? I'm a teacher of people. I'm helping people. I ain't never treat nobody bad. I've not done everything I was supposed to do is with my children, blah, 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 whatever. That's some personal shit. Okay, so they impound my van. By the time I find out, I call there and it's already $700. That was like a week ago. $700? It sounds like a lot of money, but at the same time, god damn, I can't get $700 together? All the shit that I've done for my people. So I'm on the phone trying to get the money together, and they turn the phone off. Wait a minute. I had the phone only 2 weeks. Now, come on. The phone is turned off, and the message that I got, the government has stopped paying for this program, for the phone, for affordable phone program. I'm like, oh shit. So now I'm like, oh shit, here we go. They done cut my tires and turned the phone off. I'm thinking everybody's phone is off. I'm like, oh shit. I start posting shit on Facebook. This is it. This is it. So I go outside the next day, and insurance and all these motherfuckers, we can't say motherfucker in the church, and all these phone people out there. I'm like, wait. I thought they just told me the phone. I thought the government turned off the phone. Everybody's still out there sitting at the table. I'm talking to the dude. He's like, yeah, okay, yeah, right. So wait a minute. Did they just turn off my phone or that specific company? Okay. I just talked about my van and the phone. There's other shit. The computer got blowed up, and then the dude lost the cord. How do you have a business fixing computers and you lose the cord to my? Now, I'm not just saying it's the same dude just messed up my roommate's computer laptop. What the heaven is going on. All right, so what do Terrence Howard have to say about all that?
I'm sure of it.
And my computer just froze again, is what I'm trying to say. Something freaked out my computer. What I can see on that screen is not what I can see on my computer screen.
I assume they listen to everything I say. They do.
Every time I'm shrinking in this video, it's just like, it doesn't like to do this.
Huh.
I don't know what's going on. I have no control over the computer. Alt tab does nothing. Escape does nothing.
Yo.
Spacebar does nothing.
This is kind of fun.
I'm not famous like Terrence Howard.
No. You know what's going on.
Terrence Howard is suggesting a different way of looking at the periodic table of elements. He believes the current periodic table doesn't show the true relationships between elements. For example, hydrogen is often shown alone, but he thinks it shares similar properties or tones with elements like carbon. By tone, he means a specific frequency or vibration. For instance, he compares the vibrations of elements to musical notes or frequencies. Hydrogen vibrate at 40.5 hertz, carbon at 81 hertz, silicon at 162 hertz, and so on. These vibrations or tones can be related to both sound and color, as they follow similar patterns of wavelength. He references Walter Russell's periodic table, which he feels shows these relationships better than the traditional one by Mendeleev.
Walter Russell's periodic table that he put together. Now you compare that to what Mendeleev's periodic table. You'll compare Walter Russell's to it, and you'll see something completely different. It's unwinding.
Whoa.
It's unwinding. You'll see there's a relationship between hydrogen, carbon, silicon, cobalt, rhodium. They're all bonded. They all sit as the middle point between two noble gases.
According to Howard, elements like hydrogen, carbon, silicon, and cobalt have specific relationships and act as central points between noble gases. Howard suggests that all matter is fundamentally connected, implying that what we perceive as different elements might actually be variations of one underlying substance. He notes that hydrogen is the first element we can see because anything denser isn't visible to us. When moving to carbon, he mentions it has a balance of positive and negative properties, making it unique.
As you reach into the next octave, the carbon octave, and they call that a bisexual tone, because the carbon has two tones to it. It has a negative side and a positive side. The part where lithium behaves, lithium is contractive.
Here's how you can get your C46 solar contractor's license in California.
Commercial.
This license allows you to install
Beryllium is contractive. Boron is contractive, but the moment you get to carbon, you balance it out. It gets to a perfect balance of plus and minus 4. So it's a double tone.
He also explains how certain elements naturally bond or react with each other. For example, fluorine will always bond with lithium, breaking any existing bonds to do so. Similarly, introducing beryllium to water will cause oxygen to bond with beryllium, splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen. By using frequencies, you can separate hydrogen and oxygen from water without the usual methods like electrolysis or heat. For example, hydrogen, being smaller, would go into one tube and oxygen into another, simply by using the right frequency. He provides an example with sodium and chlorine. When you rub salt, sodium, on your skin after swimming in a chlorinated pool, it neutralizes the chlorine, turning it into an oil. This demonstrates how everything has an equal and opposite mate. Howard also explains that elements can transform as they move up in frequency or octaves. For instance, lithium becomes sodium in the next octave, and sodium becomes potassium in the following octave. These transformations follow a pattern where each element doubles in frequency and becomes wider.
The reason that arsenic kills us is because our DNA has nitrogen and it has phosphorus in it, because nitrogen unwinds into the next octave right after silicon and becomes phosphorus. Our DNA has both of those in there, but it's going by tone. So the moment arsenic, which sits as a -3 on the next octave, the moment arsenic is introduced, the body thinks that, oh, this is my thing that I need, and it tries to wrap itself around the arsenic, but it causes the DNA to unravel because it's 4 times as large as that nitrogen was.
Howard talks about various elements like titanium, vanadium, chromium, magnesium, and iron, which he refers to as isotopes rather than true elements. He compares these elements to wrapping a rag around your hand. The more you wrap, the more distinct each layer becomes. With the right understanding of wave frequencies, we can now unravel these elements in ways that weren't possible before.
The angles of incidence that were necessary to open these things up. And you couldn't do that with the Platonic solids because the Platonic solids were averages and approximations.
The old models, like the Platonic solids, were too simplistic because they didn't account for the natural curvature of motion. He emphasizes that all motion in the universe is expressed in waves which are curved, not straight. Howard also talks about the balance of forces in the universe. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and this balance leads to the curvature in motion. He critiques Einstein's theory of relativity for not including this balancing force. He explains that gravity is caused by electric forces, which always seek high pressure and move in a spiral pattern. These forces eventually convert back into the electric field and return to their source.
What happens when we get older? We expand at our equator, right? We get shorter at the top. Why? Because the electric force is pushing in and condensing, and the magnetism expands out at the equator.
Electricity for the Earth works in cycles, pushing itself back out at the equator, making the equator 5 miles wider than the poles. Einstein's equations didn't separate electricity and magnetism properly. He saw them as coupled forces, but in reality, they are opposites. Electricity is like breathing in, a contracting force, while magnetism is like breathing out, an expanding, radiative force. The term magnet suggests attraction, but to magnify means to make something larger, which is the work of radiation. This idea aligns with what Walter Russell talked about years ago. Russell emphasized that radiation works to increase space, while electricity pulls things together. Traditional science teaches that opposites attract, like hot and cold air or water, but in reality they move in opposite directions. 2 magnets, for instance, seem to attract because of the way they align, similar to how 2 streams of water would push against each other but eventually align. Howard suggests we've been misled by our senses, particularly our vision, which sees only a tiny fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum. This limited view has caused science to misinterpret many things. For example, E equals mc squared only talks about expansion, not contraction. We never breathe in twice without breathing out. This natural balance of in and out, charge and discharge, is missing from scientific models that focus solely on expansion, as influenced by Newton's idea that everything moves in a straight line unless acted upon. Newton's ideas have led to a 2-dimensional understanding of space, which fails to account for nature's inherent curvature. This misinterpretation extends to the periodic table, where elements are seen as isolated and static rather than interconnected and dynamic. Conventional science sees carbon as always being carbon, but Howard suggests that it actually unwinds and transforms into nitrogen and nitrogen into oxygen. Walter Russell's version of the periodic table addresses these interconnections and transformations, showing elements as part of a continuous process. However, those who study the conventional periodic table often overlook or dismiss Russell's ideas, not fully understanding the dynamic nature he proposed.
Remember the Michelson-Morley experiment from 1887? They were trying to prove whether there was an ether or an effect of an ether, or that the quintessence that everything came from. That used to be called the 5th element. From antiquity, everyone understood that something doesn't come out of nothing. It's like when you look at the air. It looks clear, but you change the pressure condition. The balance of the change of pressure condition, we call that condensation. It creates clouds. And you change the motion conditions.
Thought he was just a good actor.
Whether it's moving quickly or slowly, it's going to become snow, it's going to become rain, it's going to become hell.
Howard argues that everything boils down to 2 forces, Either you're filling up something, breathing in, or pouring it out, breathing out. He criticizes scientists for ignoring Walter Russell's work because Russell didn't use mathematical equations. Instead, Russell approached these ideas philosophically, discussing how things behave rather than strictly adhering to Newtonian physics or calculus. He criticizes scientific methods like the Feynman diagrams, which he sees as overly complex and contrived, suggesting that they eliminate possibilities until only one answer remains, a method he believes is flawed. He points out issues with probability and concepts like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle and Schrödinger's cat, arguing that they stem from removing the concept of ether. According to Howard, electromagnetic waves need a medium, and effects cannot exist without a cause, like the chicken and egg scenario. Howard mentions Dr. David Tong from Cambridge, who stated that much of what is taught in physics is incorrect because it overlooks the true nature of how things work. This includes the results of the Michelson-Morley experiment, which assumed a stationary ether. However, Joseph Larmor proposed a moving ether with opposing vortices, aligning more closely with Walter Russell's views that the Sun gave birth to the Earth rather than the Earth forming from a coalesced field. Howard also highlights that the Earth is drifting away from the Sun by about 0.6 inches a year, a phenomenon observed universally as planets in solar systems drift away from their primaries at a consistent rate. This suggests a universal expansion. Recent observations like those from the Webb telescope challenge the traditional timeline of galaxy formation, supporting the idea that our current understanding of the universe's age and formation might be flawed. By calculating the drift of the Earth away from the Sun, he points out that it would take about 105,600 years for the Earth to move just 1 mile. This slow, steady drift challenges the conventional view of a static universe, reinforcing the idea of continuous movement and expansion. To understand how long it would take the Earth to reach its current distance from the Sun, 93 million miles, at a drift rate of 0.6 inches per year, it would require approximately 9.8 trillion years. Similarly, for Mars, which is 147 million miles away from the Sun, it would take about 15.8 trillion years to reach its current position.
So at a given point, Mars was here in the Goldilocks zone. And now Venus is going to inherit the Goldilocks zone next. They forget that Mercury is under the highest pressure possible. So it can expand. It's like hydrogen. It's like those octaves before hydrogen. So the atmosphere, the iron isn't able to release any oxygen and the oxides, but when you get to 67 million miles away from the Sun, the pressure is a little less, but it's still so much higher than the pressure on Earth.
This is comparable to being deep inside the Earth, where the pressure is immense. Venus, which has thick clouds filled with sulfur and ammonia, will eventually move into a position where conditions might become more Earth-like. In the future, as Earth moves to where Mars is now, Venus will take Earth's current position, possibly in 5 or 6 trillion years. When this happens, life, including humanoids, might develop on Venus, similar to how it developed on Earth.
That asteroid belt that we have right now, between Mars and Jupiter, that used to be a planet. And I believe that they had humanoids that developed on there.
This concept is tied to the periodic table because the table represents not just the elements but also the periodic nature of these changes. Elements transform based on changes in motion and pressure conditions. What we call different elements are essentially the same substances behaving differently under varied conditions. For example, if you move your hand in different ways, it might look different each time, but it's still the same hand. Similarly, elements appear different due to changes in their environmental conditions, but they are fundamentally the same substance. As you saw at the beginning of the video, something strange happened when they tried to play a very important video in which Terence demonstrates how planets can be created. Terence and his team used a simulator from Princeton to conduct the experiment. In this experiment, they arranged shapes called linchpins, where 6 pentagons meet in a specific order. Let's watch the video. Pay close attention, please.
Before we watch it, let me explain.
Okay, so I've been recording the voice, so what I'm going to do, because they're getting ready to show video, I'm just going to link the video below this video because that's what I do. I wanted to do my video and promote somebody else's video. So I'm out. I'll put the link below so you can see the whole video. And peace.